I can. So email, Instagram, hit me up. We'll work it out.
All right, folks, again, and we appreciate all the courageous calls people are making about their experiences. Joining us now, though, we're going to just shift gears for a moment or two to talk to Young Invincibles in the person of Director of Civic Engagement, Clarissa Unger. This is National Voter Registration Day, as a matter of fact. Clarissa, good morning to you. How are you? Sorry to keep you waiting.
Good morning, Mark. No problem at all.
I think what you just heard is plenty of reason and motivation, especially for young people and women in particular, to get out and get registered to vote today.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. There are so many issues that motivate people to vote. And, we have really seen young people at the front lines of so many social movements this year, from the Me Too movement to March for Our Lives and Black Lives Matter. And that's really why today is so exciting.
One of the reasons it's today is because we're right on the cusp of the deadlines. I was reached out to by a group of people just the other day about doing a voter registration drive, I think in the next week or two. And I was like, okay, yeah, let's do it. But then I said, wait a minute, y'all. The deadlines are usually about 30 days out. So this is really the moment to do it. We don't have 2 weeks.
That's right. Now is the time. So National Voter Registration Day is always held on the fourth Tuesday of September, which is right before all states' voter registration deadlines.
Okay. So what can people do right now today, especially if they're just really hearing about this, that this is National Voter Registration Day? What can people do today, Clarissa?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, there are a couple of things that people can do. One of them is to find an event in their local community by going to nationalvoterregistrationday.org. Also, we're just encouraging people to have conversations with their friends, with their family, with their neighbors about voting and answer any questions that they have about the registration process. Sometimes all it takes is just that nudge by someone that you know to really put you over the edge and get you to register.
Yeah. And folks, we invite you to go to the website. I'm on it at nationalvoterregistrationday.org. A lot happening on college campuses too, isn't it?
There's so much happening on college campuses. So in 2014, there were 39 National Voter Registration Day events at colleges and universities. Today, there will be events on more than 500. Which is really, really exciting, and I think really just showing how engaged students are and how ready they are to take part in the election this November.
Yeah, this is very, very important. And, we just spoke to NAACP before you came on. They have a campaign, register 5, take 5 to the polls. Folks, everything you just heard, even in the context of what's happening with this nominee and the concerns that are there, Clarissa, I say to people all the time, if our side, if young people in particular, would just vote, would just really take on that responsibility and do it, so many things would change overnight, because there are so many more young people nowadays, and there are older people who may not agree with some of the things we agree with, or may be stuck in the old ways. We had men calling this morning, Clarissa, who just don't get sexual assault, just can't believe that type of thing happens, always have an excuse. Well, young people nowadays get it. And if you all have young people in your lives and would encourage them, just vote. If we came out in numbers and if we all voted, more of us voted, even if we all didn't. We have at the most 50% voter participation in this country. If we even got it up to 60, that'd make it even tougher. The more numbers we have, the more numbers that Russia has to hack. The more numbers that others have to suppress. So if we turn out in overwhelming numbers, we can offset all of that, can't we, Clarissa?
You're exactly right. Voting is really one of the most effective tools that we have to make powerful change in our communities and to make elected officials pay attention to the issues that are impacting each of us. And I've got to tell you, I've been traveling all over the country talking with young people about the upcoming elections, Just since Thursday, I've been in Philadelphia, Miami, Orlando, and today I'm in Baltimore, and young people are engaged, they're energized, and they are ready to make their voices heard in this election.
Indeed. Today is National Voter Registration Day. So as much as we're talking about the news of the day, as much as we're talking about the hearing and all the drama out of that and the stories, put in your conversations as you go about today at work, at home, at school, hey, this is National Voter Registration Day. Are you registered to vote? Do you know someone who, I was speaking to with, I've been repeating this every day. The audience is probably sick of hearing it, but I want to repeat it in front of you, Clarissa. I was with Congresswoman Gwen Moore at the Black Caucus last weekend, and she made a good point. She said, each of us knows the people who aren't voting, Clarissa, because they live with us. They sit at our dinner table every night. Some of them even sleep in the bed beside us. So we know them. She told a story about a pair of twins, Clarissa, where one voted and the other one stayed home. And she said, how do twins do that? They're twins. Why didn't one of them say, hey, come on, you're going to vote with me? So, I mean, we know. And the reason we know is because we don't engage. We've got to engage with the people. Don't take for granted that everybody's doing what they're supposed to do and getting out to vote. And some people mean well. After all, Clarissa, in 2016, folk didn't vote because they just knew she was going to win. Oh, she's going to win. Clarissa and Mark, I don't have to go vote because she's going to win. And that's just not the way it works, is it?
Nope, that's not the way it works at all. We've all got to get out there and show up.
Indeed. Young Invincibles, folks, check them out, and also nationalvoterregistrationday.org. Clarissa, thanks so much for joining me this morning. Okay, so you're in Baltimore today, you said?
I'm in Baltimore, yep. I'm going to be helping to register students at the Maryland Institute College of Art today.
Wonderful. Well, you all keep up the good work. You're doing great and important work, okay?
Thank you so much, Mark.
All right. Take care. All right. Take care now. Enjoy your day.
Bye.
Bye-bye. 866-99-SIRIUS, 866-997-4748. Brittany stepped out, you all, and I think she's, she deserves that. My sister Yvette sent something on Instagram. I want to just read this. What does it say? Thank you so much for sharing your story, your truth. Keep rising in that light. People need to hear the long-lasting impact of sexual assault. I stand with you and all the courageous women speaking up. Thank you, sister, and thank you to all of you for your sentiments. So since Brittany stepped out, I don't want her to hear this and get. You know what? Let me take a break. I'm gonna come right back, and then Shadi is another ignorant man on hold who wants to make a comment. So I'll take him on myself. Don't go away. Sirius XM Progress 127 Resistance Radio. Get woke and vote. Get ready for impeachment. This is MIP.
I stay woke.
All right. 866-99 series, 866-997. Let's get some more calls in. Ladies first. Karen and Tiffany are going to be next. So let's hear from them. Tiffany's in Maryland. Tiffany, God bless you. Good morning. Get woke and vote. Withdraw Kavanaugh. Get ready for impeachment. God bless you, Tiffany. How are you?
Good morning. I'm fine. I want to speak about my personal experience with sexual assault.
Mm-hmm.
I've never said anything. And my experiences with it were from one was from, let me see, I'm 30, probably 33, so it was 21 years ago. And you don't speak about it because, you know, it's like you become a victim all over again, because then you have to go to the court, you have to keep saying it, people look at you, a different type of way. But I never forget, I was like 11 or 12 years old, and I was in middle school, and I was over one of my mom's friend's house. She could be watching when my mom worked, because my mom she was a single parent,
Mm-hmm.
and she worked 2 or 3 jobs. And the lady was watching me, and her niece, which was was a classmate of mine. She was older than me. I never forget. I stayed the night, and she slipped in my room in the middle of the night, and she touched me and stuff. And I didn't know, at 11, 12, you don't know. I mean, well, some people know, but back then I didn't know. And I was like, she's like, you like it, you want it, and I'm like, no, I don't. But then I was scared to say anything because, I didn't want it to get around, because I grew up in a very conservative religious environment, and same sex relationships. Well, I didn't want anybody label me as something that I wasn't, and
Mm-hmm.
say that I wanted it. And I didn't want my mom to feel bad, because my mom worked very hard, and you feel a certain type of way when you think you trust somebody, because a lot of times sexual assault happens to people that you know and you trust.
Yeah, people close to you.
People
and you mentioned being labeled certain way. So that's why some men, that's why Frank might have been, the guy who called earlier, might have been sexual assaulted, because if a man is sexually assaulted by another man, then he doesn't definitely want anybody to know that, And so the same thing in your case. It's very confusing. It's so much going on there. The assault itself, your age. This was another woman. How old were you?
I was 11 or 12, and she would have been about 14. Which, I mean, it's not that big of age, but I didn't know what was going on at first. And like something that you never forget. And then when I was in high school, my mom had got remarried, and I was home at that time. I was of age to stay home, but my stepfather, he called himself tickling me, but he put his hand all up my shirt and groped me and everything. And I never forget, I froze and felt so nervous. And he left out the room, and I immediately started moving furniture to block my door. But I was like, oh my God. And then I think he heard me, and he could hear me panicking, and he was like, well, don't tell your mom, don't tell your mom. And then I felt bad, because I was like, this is my mom loves, and I didn't want her again to feel a certain kind of way that she felt as a parent.
So you never told her?
I've never told her. I've never told anybody, and it hurts. And I was just sitting here because I took my father to work, and he has never been somebody who was in my life. And I was sitting here thinking, you're the reason, because you were there to financially support me. So my mom couldn't afford proper child care. She had to depend on family members and friends to watch me, because she couldn't afford to pay for it.
Yeah.
And something that you.
How are you dealing with this now? How does this have a lingering impact for you?
I think so, because I've always been heavy, because I've always had a problem with people touching me. So I think that I've put on extra weight, hopefully, to fend off, the groping and the, looking at me. Maybe, if I get in a certain weight, I'll put you off, like you won't want to, touch me. And this thing, people were like, well, why you don't say anything? I was like, because, if you say something, it's like you're a victim all over again, and, you're slut shame, or you shouldn't have had that on, or you shouldn't have been wearing that. You probably walk around the house and you wanted it. And it's, all those thoughts, go through your mind, and it's hard. And my mom,
is your mom still with you?
She is, and I love her to death. But
so you're telling us, you're telling what about the stepdad? You're telling us what you've never told her.
but I've never told her. And he's deceased now. He died.
Are
But,
you ever going to tell her?
I don't know, because my mom, she takes disappointment hard. I don't want.
I see. Yeah. Okay. No, you don't have to. You got to do what you got. You know what's best. Wow. So what about the 14-year-old who touched you? Where is that person now?
Last time I haven't seen her. Like, I go home quite often, but I haven't seen her. But from last I heard, she got married and has a family and everything. But after that, I was like, when my mom was like, "Why you don't go out?" I just stayed in the house.
How has this affected your relationships?
I think, well, I wasn't sexually active until I was 26 or 27, because for a long time I didn't trust anybody to touch me. I didn't want anybody. And even now, still, like, I always get like a certain kind of way, because you go out and men automatically assume, like, if you go dancing or something, I want your hands all over me, I want you slapping my butt, I want you touching it. You wanted it because you danced with me. And, like, I think the entitlement, I always feel uncomfortable. So, like, right now I'm by myself, and I enjoy being by myself, and I might be by myself the rest of my life.
I know that's right. Being by yourself sometimes ain't the worst thing, is it, Tiffany?
Surely is, no drama.
I tell myself that. I say, Lord have mercy. Well, listen, sister, thank you for your courage in telling your story. Okay.
No problem. I just hate when I hear people say, why you ain't say something.
Right. Right.
It's hard.
It is hard. It is hard to say something. Okay.
But you have a blessing, Mark.
You do the same. You be strong. You on your way.
I love her, and I appreciate her, because a lot of people, they say stuff, and I could completely relate when she was like people at school and stuff, and I just know that if I had said something, it would have been the same thing.
Yeah, because people do that to you. Mm-hmm. All right. Well, and childhood can be cruel. Children can be so cruel to each other. And some of that stuff we go through as young people. You have the assault, and then, like in Brittany's case, and I've heard that story before too, other kids hear about it and make fun of you. And you're scarred for life.
Right.
A lot of what happens to us in high school is the stuff that really stays. High school, middle school, because that's formative stuff, and it stays with you. It stays with you.
People like, well, you get older and it never happens again, but it doesn't mean that you didn't do it.
Yeah.
You have to give an account for our actions.
Yeah. All right, Tiffany. Thank you. Love you. Be strong. You on your way to work?
I'm actually on the way home. I work overnight, so I'm about to go home.
What do you do?
I work in highway traffic control, so like the signs and make sure that the right resources get to like accidents and stuff. Okay.
Well, you be careful on the way home. Get you some rest, okay?
Thank you.
Call me anytime. Alrighty.
I will.
All right. Take care now. 866-99-SIRIUS. We're in a commercial break on the radio when we come back from that break, which will be in about 3 minutes. Karen, I'm going to come to you and hear your story, okay? So bear with me, Karen. We'll get to other calls as well. Appreciate everyone's courage in sharing their stories too. And maybe this, I've been feeling that I want people to understand that people coming forward are coming forward on their own volition. I've not said, please come forward and tell your stories. I've just said that you're welcome to. But now that I think about it, maybe this is a good forum. Because you're on the radio, those of us who hear your voice aren't looking at you. We still don't know you. Some of you may be giving your real names or not, but at least you're not giving your full names. So maybe sharing on the radio is an ideal way to tell the story. And have some degree of anonymity. I'm not saying it right. How does he say? Anonymity. But it gives you an opportunity to do that. And so maybe that's not the worst thing. We appreciate it. Karen, I'm coming to you next. So everybody just stand by. And then Michael Tomask is going to join us. So we're covering all the bases today. Yeah. Let me see here.
This is
Make it plain.
Make it plain. MIP
With Masamela Matfumo.
Mark Thompson. Make it plain. Get woke.
We're still hearing from sexual assault survivors. Karen's in Tennessee here at the top of the hour. Sirius X in progress. Karen, God bless you. Good morning. Get woke and vote. Withdraw Kavanaugh. Get ready for impeachment. How are you, Karen?
I'm fine, Mark. How are you?
I'm all right. What's happening?
I just wanted to speak on there were 3 experiences as a child when I was molested. And some people say, why don't you say something? And 2 of these times, it was in my home. And it was people that my mother knew. And I couldn't say anything to her because I was growing up, I didn't really understand that once I grew up that my mother had a mental problem. And so sometimes people don't understand about how you live. So since I knew she would blame us, and I have brothers, for things that we didn't do, there was no way I can go and tell her. So one instance, and 2 of these people were her boyfriends, one boyfriend came into my brother's bedroom, and he touched me and my private parts. And my brothers, they rallied him out of the bedroom, leave her alone. The second time with the boyfriend was, I really loved this man. I wished that he was our father because we didn't have a father. And once I became a preteen, I guess I started developing, and he pulled me close to him, and he touched my breast and my behind. And from that point on, I was afraid of him. I never came close to him. When he would come over, I would avoid him. And then I remember one day he said, well, are you scared of me? And I'm like, yes. And I was terrified of this man. Another time, as a preteen, I was in a department store looking through a glass casing, like looking down onto jewelry or something like that. Our kids look at and say, I wish when I get older I'll buy this or whatever. But I was looking in this case, and this man came behind me, and he just touched my behind. And it was so surprising, and I couldn't believe that had happened. And I turned to look, and he was gone. But I knew that he had targeted me because I'm in a department store, and he looked, and I guess he found me, and I was the person that he was going to grope, and that's what he did. But my point is that sometimes we can't say things because these things happen in our home. And in our home life, we don't always grow up with the best parents or parents that know how to parent. So I couldn't tell anybody. I grew up
You said your mother, you later found, suffered from mental illness?
Yes, because I didn't understand why she would do or say some of the things that she would say. She wasn't that maternal. I don't remember her saying that she loved us or anything like that. And then she would just, sometimes she'd be fine. We loved her. And then there are other times where she would just lash out. And we didn't understand it. And I never understood it. But once I was growing up, and in fact, I was grown, I was speaking to my uncles and my aunt. She had one sister. And her sister said that she was afraid of her because she would just lash out at her. And one of my uncles, he had told me this, like, that she had a mental problem. And back in those days growing up, you know, I guess parents didn't do anything about it, about things like that. But we grew up in a home, and I have 5 brothers. We grew up in a home where this existed, and we didn't know any better. You know, we just did what she asked us to do. And don't get me wrong, she loved us. I feel that she loves us, and she tried to do her best. But there were problems. And I don't know if there's people that's out there now who has gone through the same thing where there's no one who you can tell.
Yeah, you can, and that's part of the problem. Now, there were 2 men you said in the home that your mother knew that this happened with. Who? I'm sorry, you didn't say men. You didn't say what they were. Were these men?
Yes, they were men.
So, who were they? Relatives or men your mother was dating, or what?
They were. I couldn't say the one. I don't even think she was dating him. It was somebody who came home with her that night. And I don't know if she had been drinking or whatever, but he found himself in our, sorry, I'm at work. He found his self in our room. So I don't know
How old were you?
Sleeping. I had to be maybe around 6 or so, 6 or 7.
And he came in your room and touched you?
Yes. And I was in the room with my brothers. And then he was, you know, just in there talking like he was talking to kids. And I don't even remember what the conversation was. And then he was putting his hand, I was under the covers, and he's put his hand under the covers, and he touched me. And then I just said something and, you know, told my brothers he's touching me, and they ran him up out of the room. The second guy was her boyfriend, and honestly, we loved him. He was like, we look forward to seeing him. We wish that he was our father. And we just loved seeing him. And one day I was playing as though I was a waitress, and I was going to bring him coffee, and he'd give me a tip. And that's the only thing I was like thinking, like, I know I can get a quarter or something. And I gave him his coffee, and I said, okay, I want a tip. And he pulled me close to him, and he rubbed my breast and my behind. And
how old were you then?
I'm probably a preteen, maybe 12 or so. You know, 12. I don't even think 13, because I think maybe I was developing because he never did anything like that before. I don't know, but it's shocked. And she was in the kitchen, and he was in the dining room. And I couldn't say anything to her because for some reason I felt as though she was going to blame me, that I did something to cause this. And I know she really liked him, and so I didn't say anything. I can't even remember if I told my brothers. I don't remember. But just last year, I told my son about these things about men touching me. And I'm 62 years old, and he was 40, and I just told him about it last year, and it hurt him. But we just don't tell people these things because I didn't think anything was going to happen. Or who do you go and tell? Who do you say something to? And so I understand these women, and I think there's so many of us out there who don't say anything. That for some reason people don't realize that this goes on, and it is a big problem, and it affects people. You know, it affects them.
Mm-hmm. How has this affected you in your life?
Well, I've been married twice, and it was terrible marriages because I did not know how I was supposed to be treated. I didn't know that, you know, if somebody loves you, they don't treat you like that. And I didn't know, but thankfully, it took a while. I learned that I was important and that no one should treat me any way except for with respect, and that my body was my temple and no one was to violate it. And then men's behavior is unacceptable. And when they treat you badly, that it's unacceptable and you should not be with a person. I learned late, but at least I learned.
Did you say you have children or not?
I have 2 children, a son and a daughter.
How old are they?
They're both. One is 43, one is 41. Great kids. Great kids, great grandchildren.
So have you ever talked about the stories you shared with us today, and there were 3 incidents? Have you ever shared that with anyone else before, publicly, or with your children, anyone?
Not publicly, just with my son last year. I can't even remember if I spoke to my daughter about it. Me and her are very close. I might have. I just don't remember. But I know that I for some reason I wanted to tell him.
Is your mother still with you?
No, she passed.
Okay. Did you ever tell her what happened?
No, never.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So how are you coping now? Have you had therapy? What are you doing now in terms of dealing with this?
I think that's why I'm calling, because I never had therapy for it. I just went through life, and I came out great. I'm a United States Army retired sergeant major. Now I'm a project manager, and made sure that my children had a good life. And so I think I function very well. It's just that you never forget things like this.
No, you can't. You can't.
And people, they can question it, of course, but women need to be believed that these things do occur, and sometimes there's no one who you can tell, especially if you're a child. Who do you tell?
Yeah, especially.
And I have a father.
Especially if you're a child.
Exactly.
Especially if you're a child. Yeah.
But that's what I wanted to tell my story, and I appreciate you,
Karen. Thank you. What part of Tennessee you in?
Clarksville.
You said Pike? What'd you say?
Clarksville.
Clarksville. Okay, not too far.
It's about 50 miles from Nashville.
Yeah, I grew up in Nashville.
Yeah, I heard, and it's on the borderline of Kentucky because I'm at Fort Campbell. So.
Okay.
Well, thank you.
Well, no, thank you for having your courage. Thank you to all of you who've had the courage to share. And I'm here for you. Brittany's here especially. And
absolutely. I'm sitting here quietly listening because last hour really beat me up a bit. So I'm just kind of absorbing everything. And because I'm sure you can relate. It's so taxing to talk about.
It is.
But I'm so amazed by everyone who is strong enough to do so, because we know we have to. If there's no other way, because the perpetrators would prefer our silence.
Those idiots that called you like earlier today, who they don't, just like Mark said, it's something that they probably did it, or they don't understand that they did it, but there's something that's not connecting.
Right, because
or they're victims themselves.
What could possibly justify a defense of behavior that's
Nothing.
just
But there's something wrong with them. There's something wrong with them as well. Also, I wanted to make this clear too, because kids always, teenagers, they drink and they have their little parties and they do things, but there's a difference between getting drunk and attacking someone, and getting drunk and getting sick, throwing up, or whatever. What is in a person, even a preteen or a teenager, that when they get drunk, that they want to sexually offend someone. So to me, that's in them to begin with.
Mm-hmm.
And not to mention the fact, why does alcohol justify you or anybody else being sexually assaulted?
And it doesn't.
Not. I mean, why does that? So, because I mean, if we did that in every situation, well, I guess we would just say, well, they brought rum to the Native Americans, they shipped rum to Africa. So, because the Native Americans were drunk, then they brought genocide on.
Right.
That's it. Because rum was sent to Africa, they brought colonization on themselves.
That's crazy.
No, that's not. But listen, Karen.
And I'm a first-time caller.
You a first-time caller?
I am.
Well, I don't mean. I mean, you share some somber news, but we'll end on a festive note. You know what that means. You like all of our first-time callers, in the words of Barry White. Are our first, our last, now everything. And Karen answered all our dreams, our sun, our moon, our shining star. Karen, you and all of our first-time callers are. Don't be a stranger, okay?
Okay. Thanks
all right.
for listening.
Take care now.
Thanks.
I got to go to my guest. Thomas is in Rhode Island. Thomas, I'm going to come to you in a minute, but I just want to read the comments you want to make just to put in people's minds as a segue. Thomas, when we get him on, is going to say the Jerry Sandusky case is a high-profile case of why victims don't come forward. You know what I'm saying? So these are men. People don't come forward. So anybody who's want to Kavanaugh, people saying Trump, when did he come forward? When did he come forward? Well, I didn't hear anybody talk about those children or those men and say, why didn't they come forward? Nobody defended Jerry Sandusky. I mean, since we're in the business of defending this, did Trump defend Jerry Sandusky? But that's what they do. They get in these silos. I guess if they appointed Jerry Sandusky to the Supreme Court, they would have defended him too. David in Virginia says he was accused of sexual assault. I think there should be due process, including an FBI investigation. David, hold on. I'm going to get to you, too. In the meantime, Michael Tomasky's latest column is up that relates to this at the Daily Beast. We invite you to check it out. Dems have to hammer Mark Judge, the Kavanaugh hearings missing man. Michael, thank you for your patience, man. Good morning to you. How are you this morning?
Okay. How are you?
I'm good. As you can tell, we've been people have just been calling in for more than the past week telling their stories. And we've had men, Kavanaugh defenders, call up and try to dismiss people's stories and say this is just a political hit job on him. But this is some pretty serious stuff, man.
Well, it's incredibly serious allegations, and we just keep getting more of them. And we don't know, you and I and nobody listening knows exactly what's true. But, you have to wonder why these women would come forward if they're not telling the truth. I mean, it's, as I said on a different show yesterday, it's not like, George Soros is not paying them $5 million to do this, and they go through a lot of personal anxiety and torture to come tell these stories. I have a hard time believing that they're not telling the truth. And I watched this guy do that Fox interview last night.
Right.
And the conviction he appears to have written on his face. I mean, if he's sitting there staring at that camera and just lying with that kind of look of conviction on his face, I don't know. That's really something.
Well,
I don't know.
It's a bizarre look to me. He still appears to be a bit robotic to me, but I just have a hard time understanding why would everybody just want to stop him. You
Right.
know, because there are political
Right.
appointees all the time people disagree with. Now, people didn't agree with Neil Gorsuch, but that didn't come out.
This didn't happen.
It didn't happen. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if that's just what people do all the time, I mean, that's just, but it's not. This is specific to him. And as you point out, you know, his supporters and the Republicans on the committee don't really want to get into this. Otherwise, they'd have the courage to bring forward Mark Judge. I mean, because if you bring forward Mark Judge, it's over.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if you believe Mark Judge, if you're Charles Grassley and Lindsey Graham and Orrin Hatch and all these other people, and if you, A, believe what Mark Judge is saying, and B, believe that he's a credible witness, you bring him forward. But, you know, he's definitely not a credible witness because of all the stuff he's written and said over the years. And, you know, and whether or not you believe him, well, I have a feeling that they don't, you know, well, it's not just that I have a feeling. A lot of people have a conviction, not just a feeling, that they don't want to put him under oath because they're afraid under oath he's going to tell the truth, and the truth is what they don't want to hear.
Yeah, yeah. Now, Kavanaugh has already shown that he can possibly lie under oath. I mean, there's serious questions about what he said so far in terms of the Democratic Committee's stolen emails back when he was flacking for. But so he can look with a straight face under oath and say whatever he wants to say, it would seem.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, he's already done it. I mean, it's documented that he lied about 5 matters the last time, and he lied to them back in the 2000s, 2004 and 2006, I guess it was, when he had previous hearings, when he was elevated to the Circuit Court of the District of Columbia. Mm-hmm. So, you know, he's got a track record of perjuring his way onto the bench. But, you know, it sure is going to be interesting what he says and what kind of questions the Democrats ask him on Thursday.
It's amazing that this is going on. So right now where we are, it appears that Dr. Ford is supposed to testify Thursday, although as of last night, her attorneys are still raising concerns about the fairness of the process. So I don't know. That in and of itself may end up falling apart. What do you think happens, Michael, if Thursday itself falls apart? What happens next, do you think?
I mean, my first instinct is that they pass him through fast. I mean,
yeah.
You know, the only thing that's holding him back to potential waivers, the 3 or 4 Republican potential waivers, and I use that term potential, you know, advisedly, and the term waivers for that matter. But the only thing that may be holding them back is they want to lay eyes on Christine Blasey Ford and see how she comes across and see what she has to say and see how she does under questioning. And, you know, if she comports herself in such a way that it increases doubt about Kavanaugh's story, then that's tough. But if she doesn't, then it's easier for them. And if she doesn't show up, it's the easiest of all for them. They're just going to vote yes, I think.
Because they say that what's happening to him is political. What they're doing, Michael Tomasky, is political. 25 minutes past the hour, 26 minutes past the hour. They are trying to, even in Mitch McConnell's poor choice of words, plow through, push this through, because they know that if they don't push this through, if they don't get him on the court, now there's a possibility they could lose the Senate. That's really what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah, of course that's what it's all about. I mean, that's the Democrats' dream scenario, is that Kavanaugh withdraws or is voted down. There's no time to put anybody else through by the time of the election, although there will be time for Trump, you know, to nominate somebody, right? Of course, he can say, okay, well, you know, Kavanaugh didn't work, I'm going to nominate so-and-so. Then Senate elections will be completely about the control of the Supreme Court. because if the Democrats capture the Senate, they're going to just block anybody they can and try to keep it empty. Try to do to the Republicans and Trump what the Republicans did to Merrick Garland. Whereas the Republicans are going to say, you need to come out and vote for us so that we can have our 5-4 Supreme Court majority again. And that'll be a heck of an election. It'll be really high stakes, and it'll pump up turnout on both sides, and it'll be pretty intense.
Is there any scenario where you see him not being confirmed?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it gets to a vote, I think they'll vote for him. I think if there's, let's say, another woman comes forward, I think that could be the end of the line, that people could just throw up their hands. It will depend to some extent on the circumstances of the story. But if another woman comes forward, then I think Republicans might say, look, forget it. We can't do this. You're going to kill us. You're going to kill us at the polls. Would Mitch McConnell rather have, and it comes down to this in some ways, would Mitch McConnell rather have that fifth conservative justice or keep his Senate majority?
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably rather keep his Senate majority, right?
Well, what's interesting, too, is Mitch McConnell at first, didn't he suggest to Trump that Kavanaugh was not the best person to put forward?
He did, and it's generally assumed that he said that because he knew about the stuff like the stolen emails and Kavanaugh's role in the Bush White House. Maybe he knew something about this kind of stuff. I have no idea, but at the very least, he knew the other things, and he did tell Trump that Kavanaugh might be hard to get through.
Yeah. And this third woman looks like it's going to be the person that Avenatti is bringing forth.
Yeah, so we'll see. I don't know. He says he's going to do that. What, today, tomorrow?
In the next 20. Last night it was in the next 24, 48 hours.
It was. I think before the hearing.
Are you suggesting, Michael, that the Democrats keep pushing and demand Mark Judge be brought to testify?
They should do that, or they should at least explain to the American people who Mark Judge is and what it means that the Republicans don't want him to testify.
Yeah.
And what it means that the Republicans didn't want the FBI to investigate any of this.
Yeah.
Those are some points that they have to hammer home, I think, at these hearings to keep winning this public opinion fight. And they're winning it so far. Kavanaugh's not popular. More people believe her than him, I think. It's kind of close, but even so, that's surprising, because back in 1991, far more people believed Clarence Thomas than Anita Hill. So that's a change. It's the Democrats. We bash the Democrats a lot, all of us, on the left side of things, for not doing this and not doing that. But I think they've handled this one fairly well.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Dems have to hammer Mark Judge. The Kavanaugh hearings missing man. The latest at thedailybeast.com by Michael Tomasky. Michael, as always, man, good to talk to you, buddy, okay?
Likewise, my friend.
All right.
Be well.
Talk to you soon. Okay, take care now. All right, bye-bye. Folks, we'll get ready to take a quick break, and I see you, Thomas, Julianne, David, and we got one other guest joining us. This is your wake-up call. Be more purposeful about how you use your money. Build black, buy black, and bank black to build wealth in the black community. Black people spend $1.2 trillion a year, but those dollars don't circulate in the community. There needs to be a sense of urgency to improve the economy. The bank black, buy black, and buy the black movements are so important, including purchasing and holding on to real estate in the community. Pay attention to where and how you spend, and remember to save and invest your money by moving your money to One United Bank, the largest black-owned and first black internet bank in America, and FDIC member. You join the bank Bang Black movement using your Mona, Amir, or Lady Liberty Visa debit cards with their powerful, proud images celebrating blackness. Shows the world that black money matters. Just go to oneunited.com. That's oneunited.com. Open an account and get your Visa debit card so you can bank black, buy black, and build black today. We'll be back at more of your calls 28 minutes before the hour. Sirius XM Progress 127 Resistance Radio. Get woke and vote. Get ready for impeachment. This is MIP.
Never give up. This is Resistance Radio, and these are your sounds of freedom.
Ladies first, Julie's in Colorado. Julie, God bless you. Good morning. Get woke and vote. Withdraw Kavanaugh. Get ready for impeachment. Go right ahead, Julie. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Mark. How are you?
Just fine.
Well, listening to the courage of the other women and Brittany that have talked about their stories has been inspiring, but that's one of the words. There are many. And I always find myself trying to minimize my situation because it was more of a groping. It wasn't, sexual stuff. And I know that that's not right, but it's like by comparison, mine wasn't as bad as some of the other stories that I've heard. It was just somebody that was in a position of not necessarily trust, but somebody that I worked for, and it seemed like it was the culture of the time because it was a horse trainer that had made a name for himself. And the old saying used to be that if you worked for a horse trainer, you must be sleeping with them in order to be able to ride the horses that you got to ride, And that was just the culture that I didn't know when I first went into it, but that's what I learned as I got into it, And the creepy part was.
Slow down for a minute, because I'm going to be sure I got this now. You were assaulted or groped by a horse trainer?
Yes.
Literally, this was a horse trainer. Okay. And what were you doing? Were you? How old were you?
18, 19.
And you were learning how to be a horse trainer, or you were just riding horses? How did you come to be in proximity to him?
I was being paid to help groom and clean stalls, and then I got to ride horses too as part of, because he had 20 horses in the barn and he couldn't ride them all, so they hire people
I see. Okay, I got you.
Help exercise, that kind of thing. So, and the creepy part was I lived at the barn. There was an apartment up above, big indoor arena, stalls on either side of the indoor arena, big place, and there was an apartment up above, and all the doors worked off of the same key. So after he tried to grope me, and he intentionally waited until everybody left. You didn't think about these things until afterwards. That's what made it creepier. It's like, wow, he didn't try to do this in front of people. He waited until everybody else left, and it was just me, And he was shorter than me, so he was trying to kiss me, but he couldn't reach, and he could only get my neck, and it's like, And knowing me, I mean, I've called him before, and that I could laugh and joke, and I've got a mouth, and I could talk. But when things like that have happened, either people have said things or they do things where they think they could, put their hands on you, that's when I can't find my voice. And so, to hear other people's stories, it's like it's good to hear people talking. Yes, it's years, down the road. I mean, I told a couple of the other women that I worked with that didn't live at the barn. They lived in their own apartment or lived with their parents, And so they made a point of staying with me, and I didn't want to tell my mom. She was a few hours away, but I didn't want to tell her because she'd make me, leave the job, and I wanted to ride. So it's like that's just what you did. You kind of sucked it up. You didn't say anything about it, and just kept riding. And you taught people that contrary to popular belief, that saying isn't always true. I'm not sleeping with them in order to ride with them. I'm just getting good at what I do. Riding wise. And the thing that, years later, I tried not to let that get to me, but it's always in the back of my mind. And I always get nervous being, if I'm the only person in the room and there's somebody 10 or 15, 20 some years older than me, it's like, I still am uncomfortable about that because it seems like the older people are just like the orange piece of shit we have in the office right now, the predator in chief. That they think they can get away with stuff like that. And that's what I did to protect myself, and that's what I still do. I still have being uncomfortable around people that are older than me, because he would have been 40 years older than me at the time, back then. But there was, Rocky Mountain News isn't around anymore here in the Denver area. But back in the day when I was the only female cable splicer on the crew of cable splicers for the phone company, there was an article in the Rocky Mountain News about sexual harassment on the job. And it was one of those big, fold out papers. And it was 2 full fold out pages worth of stories, because they interviewed, I think 50 women. They randomly, called 50 women, and every single woman had a story. So this would have been back in the 80s. And it's like everybody that they called on a random basis, every woman had some kind of a story. So, so for this stuff that's going on now, it's like, the pasty old guys that are the 11 guys on the committee, it's like they represent that old lech, that tried to grope me, and whether they've done it or not, but their ignorance about, she must be just confused and she doesn't know. And because, what have they gotten away with? What do they think is okay? Because they don't see there's anything wrong with it. It's like, that's just what we do,
Like Orrin Hatch. Orrin Hatch said,
yes.
She's all mixed up. What is he? I mean, that doesn't sound like a lecherous old crackpot talking. She's all mixed up.
Yep. And it's like, because
it's been so long since he's even been in the company of a woman. He doesn't even know what a woman's voice sounds like anymore.
I don't. Yeah, and it's like, he comes from the era of women should be seen and not heard. And I'm sorry that you guys need to be retired and put out to pasture and study your navel. But it's like, you don't deserve to be in a public office where you're supposed to be representing everybody, not just your wallet.
Orrin Hatch.
And the Mormon, where the uterus is supreme, but that's all. It gets attached to a female, but it's just the uterus that they like. So I don't.
And you can have more than one uterus in the household.
Yeah.
You know, you can do polygamy. That's what they used to.
Yeah.
I don't know if they still believe that, but that's what they used to practice.
I think
so
some of them wish they could. Yeah.
I mean,
so
it's
why
just
do you complain?
total objectification. She's all mixed
It
up.
is.
No, you're all mixed up in that doggone religion. Listen, you know, she's all mixed up. What is he talking? How does he know? He don't even know her. But Julie,
It's another sign of projection like Trump does. You know, it's like he's the one who's mixed up. He's the one who doesn't want to deal with it, but they'll put it out on somebody else. And that's what Trump does all the time. And that's what, you know, this guy who said he's the greatest president we've ever had. It's like, talk about mixed up, Mr. Hatch. If that's what you think.
and I'm telling you, see, people like him don't mind. See, deep down, and Kavanaugh needs to understand this quickly himself. Deep down, Trump doesn't mind Kavanaugh getting this heat because it keeps the heat off of him.
Oh, yeah.
A dude like that would rather have another dude caught for sexual assault than himself be caught for sexual assault. And Trump has dodged a major bullet because we know what he's done. We're clear. Julie, I got to go, but I appreciate you again being someone else having your courage to share your story, okay?
Thank you so much.
And you be strong. And Brittany's here. You know.
Hell yeah.
Thank you, Brittany. Happy Wednesday.
Yes, Women's Wednesday came a day early this week,
That's right,
but your story is so valid and appreciated.
That's right. Women's Wednesday
thank you for
came
telling me.
early.
Yep.
It's supposed to still be my day, but it became Women's Wednesday. Took over.
Step aside, man.
I know that's right.
Every day. We don't just get one day.
Why not?
It's Tidal Wave Tuesday because the women are rising up like a tidal wave now.
Yeah.
So
Yes,
it's
they are.
Tidal
Yes,
Wave
they are.
Tuesday.
Time's
right.
up.
Time's
Time's
up.
up.
Time's up Tuesday. There we go. There we
There
go.
you go.
All right. Take care, Julie.
you guys.
Enjoy your day.
Bye.
Folks, we're going to get to other calls. Bear with us. I see everyone. But very, very quickly, we want to acknowledge someone who really was out of her mind in asking me to join her on Sunday at her institution. I was completely unworthy. I was so misbehaving while I was there because, you know me, I'm mischievous. But it was truly an honor to be at Antioch College, Coretta Scott King's alma mater, at the Coretta Scott King Center. We're joined now by the executive director of the Coretta Scott